Hi guys, welcome to the video. So this week we're in chapter 21, maintenance contract management. Maintenance contracts. We're talking about contracts. Now we talked a lot about maintenance and the need for maintenance and everything else and different things that need maintenance and how we go about scheduling and all that other stuff. We did we talked a lot about that. But let's talk about now the contract. Why do we need a contract? Why don't we just call somebody every time we need somebody? Just, hey, are you available to come out here? Some companies in some things that might work okay for you, but others might not. It's been said and it's been observed that these critical machines or critical systems and pieces of equipment tend to go bad when you need them the most. Okay, so let's talk about a hotel. All right, if you have a hotel and you have one of the busiest weekends of the year, July 4th, say, or somewhere in the summertime when it's hot and the air conditioning goes down, that's pretty critical. All right, you're going to have people check out. You're going to lose a lot of money if your air conditioning is not fixed really quick. All right, so having a contract that stipulates that when we have an emergency, my emergency, because we signed a contract, is now your emergency. That's good, because if you just call somebody up and say, hey, I got an emergency, and they're sitting there listening to you, it's like, hey, we got a guy, they got an emergency. How much money do we want to sponge out of these people? All right. I mean, why wouldn't they, right? But they're not going to offer you discounts if you're panicking on the phone with no contract. Okay, so a contract can be good. All right, so what are some things that we want a contract for? All right. Well, we know we're going to outsource some things, right? We're probably not going to outsource everything. Some things we can do in house, especially the maintenance part, right? The preventive maintenance, the routine maintenance, maybe even some of the yearly maintenances. I mean, there's not a line cook out there that hasn't had his head up into the exhaust, whatever. And most places we feel that's something we do. I've worked at other places that no line cook touched the exhaust at all, not even taking it out to clean it. It was all under contract. I personally wouldn't probably do that, but that was a corporate thing. All right, so we all have areas that we can do our own stuff, and certainly the preventive maintenance. But what are some things that you really, really don't want to do in house? Things like fire safety equipment, elevators. We talked about elevators. You're required to have elevators, certain levels of maintenance done by outside folks or certified people on the payroll. So if you have 20 elevators in the building, you might hire somebody. But what hotel has 20 elevators, right? Let's see. And other things that are that make sense too, that might not be critical. Things like snow removal and landscaping. Yeah, anybody can mow the lawn, but do you really want to have your people whose expertise is in one way, in one aspect, do something completely outside of their norm? If it's talking about maintaining the cooking pieces of equipment, it's expected as part of your purview as a cook to have an understanding of your equipment. Mowing the lawn, shoveling snow has nothing to do with what your job description is primarily. All right, so those things that are completely outside of what the realm of what folks do, you want a contract for. Those things that require certain certifications, you want a contract for. Elevators, escalators, we said that. Pest control can be a liability issue. Yeah, you can say I don't want to pay. I mean, pest exterminator, let's use an old word, exterminator contracts are expensive. All right, but if you have a guest that's hurt by some kind of infestation, bit by a rat or brown recluse or something like that, and you go to court saying, yeah, we have Bob on when he's not working slinging burgers, he goes by with a spray bottle and sprays. That's not going to be considered reasonable enough for you not to be found liable for negligence. Okay, so it depends on the case, but definitely speaking, having that contract in place is the first line of defense in any negligence case involving some kind of interaction with rodents or pests or something like that. All right, refrigeration equipment, you know, we've all been there, and if you've worked in the industry at all, you've been busy and you lose your refrigeration equipment, or you lose your something that vital piece of equipment to cook on. Always happens at the worst time. Well, it seems like it always happens. It doesn't always happen at the worst time, but it seems like it always happens at the worst time. So having a contract is going to get that someone out there for you, because when you're contracting for equipment for restaurants and hotels, they know that you're a restaurant and hotel. So those kind of things are worked out. It's like after hours, overtime, all that stuff is going to be worked out in the contract, saying, hey, if you have to come out, you will come out. All right. If we need you, we need you. All right. Your normal working hours, the office building down the street, normal working hours is 9 to 5. Ours are not. Okay. We have banquets at 11 o'clock at night, and if stuff goes down, we're in trouble, and you need to be able to come at a moment's notice. You know, it's all worked out, but those are the kind of things that you need a third party contract for. I'm kind of going all over in circles, but it's a big, broad topic. So refrigeration equipment is a big one. Fire and safety, again, that's one that probably requires, and depending on the municipality, it's going to require certain certifications. Water chemistry management, you know, pool boys. I mean, you may have on staff someone who does pool, you know, part-time or whatever, but for the heavy duty stuff, you might have to have somebody come in. All right, so contracts. All right, why a contract? I think I talked about that, you know, it's because it's going to outline the things that they're going to do for you, their commitments they're making to you, and the commitments that you're making as far as payment and flexibility as much as possible. All right. How do you go about it? Now, the most obvious way to find someone to be going in a contract is when you buy a piece of equipment. They're going, generally speaking, although I have bought equipment, or not me personally, but I've been in companies where I was part of buying equipment for a company that didn't support it. All right. And generally speaking, you can get it at a better deal. Now, I've been on the flip side of that in a different industry. I worked at a place there, but yeah, we would work on other people's equipment, but you were going to pay us more. All right. If we sold it to you, we were cheaper. All right. If someone else sold it to you and you wanted to give them the big money and then just give us scraps, we weren't going to do that without without charging you for it. That's the way business works, right? So if a deal sounds too good to be true, it sometimes is, right? Maybe not be for the purchase, but if you purchase from someone who cannot supply any kind of maintenance, that's fine. But understand that you're going to pay more potentially to have a company maintain somebody else's piece of equipment. Now, in the restaurant biz, not so much, because there's a lot of used stuff on, and there's a lot of ins and outs. But in some industries, it's bad that way. Okay, but anyway, the whole point of that ramble was the most obvious place is who you buy it from, but not always the best, right? So you need to look at it, right? So the thing about contracts is, you know, you get a contract with a company and things are good, right? And to the point of, and any of you who've worked in the industry, any industry for a while, know that I can probably give examples of times when the contractors were almost like employees, right? They came to the office parties, they hang out, you know, they'd come in with a box of donuts or whatever, and you got Christmas cards and the whole thing, right? So it's easy to think that they're on your side, and you're paying them to be on your side, but you need to make sure that they stay on your side, because it seems to happen that the better the relationship, the more the relationship becomes personal. It's just, you know, hey, this is Bob's and he's one of our people. He comes to our parties, blah, blah, blah. The more personal the relationship comes, the less service you get, the less bang you get for your buck. All right, so you need to be careful with that. All right, so now let's talk about a couple other things. Some things, okay, so you want a contract. Yes, the obvious one is the people that you bought the equipment from, but let's say it's not. Let's say you got the equipment from a different, online or whatever, or even if you did buy it from somebody, but you want to make sure that you're getting the best bang for your buck on the maintenance level. Some companies that will sell you, that are the only companies that will sell you pieces of equipment, are hugely expensive, and quite frankly, they're one-sided contracts. Certain pieces of equipment, they're known for that, right? They're saying, this is our thing, and you buy the chemicals from us, and the this and the that, and it's a ripoff, right? So what do? You throw out bids, right? You request for proposal, RFPs, good Lord, request for proposals. Okay, I had a hard time with that. All right, so you send those out to different people, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The more, the better. And not only can you do this, but some of the key things that's important to you: the off hour times, how much you're going to pay for off hour, or overtime, whatever, or not overtime. Yeah, overtime. The other little stipulations that are important to you. You want to make sure that, some of it might be cheaper for the routine stuff, but they're much more expensive for the others. So you want those requests out there to make sure that you're getting what you want. Let's talk about some of the contract terms that you want. Length of contract. 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. Those are common contract terms. The termination of the term, who can terminate, how it can be terminated, that is usually prominent in the contract right there in the front, because people try to weasel out of stuff, right? Especially when you feel, okay, why am I paying a monthly fee when they're not doing a whole lot? All right, well, there might be a reason for that, or you might be getting ripped off. So you just say, I ain't going to do it no more. Well, the contract says is no, you just don't want to do it no more is not grounds for termination. So you're a breach. You're a breach of contract. So make sure that you do a term that makes sense to you. Now, oftentimes, in other classes I talk about leases where you want a lease that's long, right? Because you don't want to be 3 years into a restaurant and then lose your lease. All right, because your identity is in that location, right? So it gets in the brain sometimes long. But for maintenance contracts, 1-3 years is probably where you want to be. And if you've been somebody that you've done business for a lot, then you might be more comfortable. But I can tell you that companies change. So we have a one year contract with somebody, it's going good, it's going well, and the next one's going to be 3 years, a year and a half to that second contract, that changes ownership, and your service goes to crap, but you're still under contract. Okay, so take all that into consideration. Service level, how much are they going to do? Are they doing this, that, or the other thing? Do we need them to do the basic stuff? They're going to want you to pay them to do all of it. They're going to want you to come in there and change filters and this, that, and the other thing. But you might not be the best option for you, right? So you're going to discuss that. Working hours, of course, we talked about. All right. Overtime callbacks, the same kind of things. Callbacks are what kind of warranty on the work, right? So you do you have a big major repair, and the repair goes to heck. Or the machine goes down again, and they come back again, they say, well, you owe me another $500, $1,000. And it's like, well, it's the same problem. You didn't fix it right the first time. Well, that's not my problem. All right. So you want to hash all that out. Visit frequency. How often are they coming there for the routine stuff? Okay. Billing terms. All right. Terms are really important. Is the cash on delivery? Then you've had a class on me before for purchasing or whatever. Know that when I say that when a company's doing COD, when a restaurant or a hotel or whatever pays the bills collect on delivery, there's usually something wrong there. You're not doing well, all right, because your credit sucks, okay, and people don't trust you, right? So terms, cancellation requirements. When can we cancel the contract? Okay, I talked about that, terminating the contract, but when can I cancel? Hey, we got to work. We don't want, your schedule to come out. Don't come out this time. Or we've got a huge thing going on. This is your regular time. Please reschedule. How can we do that kind of stuff? Another one would be procedures for, and this is a common one. This is probably going to all be in all contracts, but something that says routine maintenance. Oh wow, or a small thing to fix, and then it's a big issue. Oh wow, we thought it was this, but it's actually this. All right. Now, some companies, some people would want to say, hey, I'm going there for $400 visit, and all of a sudden I see that it's $1,000 visit. Woohoo! I just won the lottery, and just do it and then bill you. All right, that's not good. That's not cool. All right, so you have to have it in the contract that before they do maintenance that is costly maintenance outside of the norm, outside what they were visiting for, they need to talk to you first. All right. And they might have in the contract, they might want to have something in the contract that says you have to buy parts through them. All right. Because I can tell you, I've been on the flip side of this. Going to a house or having your company go to a house or business, and you say, hey, this is a problem, we're going to fix it for you, this is the part, this part's going to cost so much money. The person says, okay, don't do it. And then they call you up and says, hey, I got the part, so come back and do it. Most companies would not take that kindly, all right? They make their money from parts and they make their money from service, right? The service alone doesn't pay the bills, all right? So understand that this is a two-way street, but also don't get taken advantage of. It's a balance, like I said. All right, rollover clauses. Rollover clauses are illegal in a lot of places, but legal in others. A rollover clause is if the contract terminates on a certain date, and you do not give us notification that you don't want to renew, you're automatically renewed, okay? We are busy, right? We are very busy. We all want to do every little detail. We all want to pay attention to every detail in our business, right? We want to dot the I's, cross the T's. We want to do everything, right? But we get busy, right? It's like, okay, today I'm coming into the back office of the restaurant and I'm going to review this contract, make a phone call, look at some new requests for proposals, and I'm going to cancel this contract because I'm contracting with somebody else. All right, that's my plan for the day. Boom, a 20 top walks in. Plans go to hell. All right, so you do not want an automatic rollover. All right, you don't want it. And most places don't even allow it. Places that allow it, it's not required. So that is a bone of contention for a contract, right? Do not just agree to things, right? Now, if they say that's the only way you're doing contract with me, but they have a lot of other good things going on for them, okay, but you need to make sure that you're on top of it, okay? All right, so additional insurance, that's saying that that's one that you don't really want. And additional insurance is a clause that they would put on there saying that our insurance is going to cover their problems. All right. Some states will not allow anybody to any kind of worker to go on site anywhere without workman's comp and liability insurance and all this insurance for the workers, because by law, if someone's on your property and they get hurt on your property, you're on the hook for it. All right. Now, with the proper insurance, the workman's compensation and insurance and all that other stuff, if they have that, then you're not on the hook for it. Okay, but some companies might try to squeeze into the contract and say, hey, there's an additional insurance clause saying that our prices are cheaper because it's your insurance that's taking care of our people. Not a good one. All right. Force majeure. Force majeure is basically act of God kind of stuff. A clause that says, hey, we are going to do this in a timely manner. If you have an emergency, we're coming. All right. If we have an emergency, but if you have an emergency and it's everybody's emergency, meaning that it's a hurricane or a tornado and we can't get there, the 2-hour promise or the 3-hour promise or turnaround promise that we have, that's out the window. All right. So force majeure clause is very common and it is acceptable generally, but it could be more specific than you want it to be, right? Or more inclusive than you want it to be. So take a look at it. Okay. And there's many other things. So when you manage your contracts, you want to make sure that you get good record keeping. You're paying attention. That you got on file their company's certificate of insurance. That you take into account the procedures for entering the building. Now, homeowners or people left to their own brains, if that makes sense, when you're not thinking on a business level, let's put it that way. Sometimes people it's like, no, nobody's coming into my house when I'm not there to do maintenance. I'm not leaving a key under a mat for a stranger to come in. All right. The bottom line is, oftentimes in this industry, you're going to have to do that. All right. You might issue a key to the company. You might give codes to the company. Now, it sounds very scary, but these are professionals. If they are professionals, they have the insurance, you have the contract, and they have an address, and you actually been to their place. their address is in an '87 Ford Econoline, right? These are legitimate. There's times where you're going to have to give them authorization to do stuff like that, and that's just the way it is. And then work that's covered and not covered. They might put a specific thing on there. We will not do this. All right. And you might put a certain thing and said, you must do this. All right. So wiring diagrams. When you have a piece of equipment, you'll have the schematics and the wiring diagrams and all the paperwork that's important to it. The person comes in, the contractor comes in and says, hey, I need that. And you give it to them and they take it and they leave. Right. So now you're not, so they're doing you dirty on the contract, so you terminate that contract, and now you don't have it for the next person. So always maintain a file for each piece of equipment with all the warranty information, with all the manuals and the diagrams and all that stuff. It's very important. Okay, so this was much more long-winded than I wanted it to be. I kind of went over the entire chapter, but it's a good chapter to read. I may have brushed over a few key points more quick than you need it, so make sure that you read the chapter. All right, so that's it, and we'll see you next week.